bailouts, you think? Do you think it's justified to consider them now?
Well, I hope they're unnecessary. If, God forbid, another catastrophe occurs and we're going to lose a whole industry, then yes, I think this shows that it can be done. I mean, this bailout is going to end up not costing the American people any revenues because it'll pay for itself, as it turns out, and it will save a whole industry and a few million jobs. Of course, it was worth it. Hopefully, nothing like that is going to be necessary again. But if, God forbid, it were, then we should do it again.
I think that's kind of what worries some in the financial community, Congressman, that this will be used as an excuse for the government to sort of strong-arm its way over corporate America. Allay them of their concerns.
The government is not strong-arming its way into corporate America. It saved a business that would have been totally kaput. Every shareholder would have been wiped out.
How do you know that? I mean, if it just filed for bankruptcy, it could have come out on its own?
It did not look that way at all. I think if you read the papers of the period a year and a half ago, they were going to be totally out of it. And it saved 1 million jobs or 2 million jobs.
We don't know that, Congressman. With all respect, we do. No. I did follow this very closely and reported on it almost on the hour when it was going on. And one of the things that was said here is that what the bailout would provide was some of the stringent efforts that they wouldn't have to take under bankruptcy, when in fact that is what they ended up doing with the bailout. They shuttered a lot of plants, closed a lot of factories, discontinued a lot of cars, laid off a lot of people. That's what you do, but that's what you do in bankruptcy.
Yes, it is, and that's the way the economy ought to function. And if we didn't permit banks and companies to get so big that they are too big to fail, which is a whole different question. I don't think they ought to be allowed to be that big. Our antitrust policy doesn't exist anymore, then you wouldn't have to rescue them. But the way it was going, with the injection of I forget how many billions of government dollars, they managed to come out of it, and the government gets its money out, and we saved all those jobs.
So you draw a distinction, I'm sorry, sir, but you draw a distinction between a bank that might be too big to fail versus, let's say, a car company that might be too big to fail.
I'm not sure. I mean, here we had the whole industry that might have collapsed, and we couldn't permit that.
So I guess what I'm asking, sir, is that let's say GM does come back, the stock does come back. Robert Gibbs at the White House says, you know, we might be made whole or get all our money back by sometime in 2012.
Okay.
What if that does not happen? And what if, you know, through maybe no faults of just Chrysler or GM or Ford or the industry, the economy, that we really just propped up a loser?
Well, sometimes you prop up something that might have been a loser. We may not get all the money back, although it appears that we will. But even if we don't get all the money back, if you saved 1 million or 2 million jobs, and you save, and that's not just from GM, it's from all the suppliers and the whole industry, that's a worthwhile investment. Now, hopefully, we'll never get into that situation again, and we ought to comport ourselves so that we aren't in that situation again. The Wall Street regulation bill, the financial regulation bill that we passed, was designed to minimize the likelihood that we'd ever have to bail out Wall Street again. We don't want to do that, obviously.
Right. Let me switch gears while I have you here, Congressman, and the debate over what happens in this lame duck session and these Bush tax cuts. Can you update me?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen at this point. We're playing a game of chicken with the Republicans right now. The Democrats want to extend the tax cuts for the middle class, but not for the millionaires and billionaires. The Republicans are saying all or nothing. Either you extend it for the millionaires and billionaires or for nobody. That's
well, even Harry Reid is saying if it means the millionaires and billionaires for a year or two, he's okay with that. Are you?
No, I'm not okay with that, because if you extend it for a year or two, you're probably going to end up extending it permanently.
So that's a non-starter for you?
That's a non-starter for me personally. I can't speak for anyone else.
So there does seem to be a difference then, Congressman, between what you're saying, what Nancy Pelosi is saying, what Harry Reid is saying. So it's a very hard position among Democrats in the House versus those in the Senate, or am I misreading it?
Well, I think that it's a harder position in the House right now because we don't want to be in a position of having a permanent extension of the tax cut for millionaires and billionaires that'll increase the deficit by $700 billion.
Why do you guys always say millionaires and billionaires when the lion's share of this, in your district in particular, goes to those earning as little as $200,000? That's not millionaires and billionaires.
Well, first of all, the lion's share of the money would go to people over $1 million. If you increased it to
I'm talking
half
the number of individuals, Congressman. The number of individuals.
Well,
there are far more individuals than the 250,000.
I am in favor. I've proposed raising that 250. I think it should be raised, and we should pay for the raise by having a higher tax bracket for people making, say, $10 million.
Okay.
But the fact is, the lion's share of that $700 billion comes from millionaires and billionaires.
Okay. It's always good seeing you, Congressman. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jerry Nadler.